Dr. Joe here of the drjoe.com and the 2020 from.com. So today we are going to be talking about a simple at-home test that you can do to predict your risk of mortality. I know this sounds a bit morbid, but we have to talk about it. Yes, we have to talk about it because it is relevant to what we do today. So it's about calculating your risk of possibly dying in the next 2 decades. So we're going to be looking at that, and I will show you the simple at-home test that you can do to sort of know where you stand as far as your risk of mortality is concerned. But before I tell you about the at-home test that you can do, let's have a look at the science. So before I talk about the at-home test that you can do to assess your risk of dying, I know it sounds a bit morbid. Before we go into that, let's talk about the springboard from which we're going to be making this assessment. And this is all based on research, by the way. So we're going to be looking at that piece of research now that is going to tell us our risk of dying in the next 16 years. Now, like I said, it's scientific, so let's look at the study design. This study was a longitudinal study that ran for a total of 16 years. So it was a fairly long study. And they recruited 2,798 men aged between 53 and 75 years. And at the beginning of the study, they made sure that people who had heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes were excluded from the study. What that means is that these 2,798 men were presumably healthy individuals. Okay, they were healthy individuals. They did ECG or EKG at the beginning of the study, and they checked the study participants' blood pressure and blood lipids at the beginning of the study as well. So let's look at their results. Now, there were other findings. These are the results that are relevant to us in this very presentation, so I'm going to be talking about them. Now, out of these 2,798 men that were recruited in the study over the period of 16 years, 1,082 men died during that period. Okay, so that represented 38.7% death rate amongst the 2,798 men. Now, what they also found, given this mortality rate, what they also found was that for every 10 beats per minute increase in the resting heart rate of the study participants from a baseline of 50 beats per minute, there was a 16% increase in their risk of death. Okay, so for every increase in 10 beats per minute from a baseline of 50 beats per minute, there was a 16% increase in their risk of death. So, and that's pretty serious. Just using your resting heart rate to calculate your risk of death. They also found that a resting heart rate in the range of 81 to 90 beats per minute, that conferred a 2-fold increase in your risk of death. Likewise, if your resting heart rate was over 90 beats per minute, remember this one is between 81 to 90 beats per minute. Now, if your resting heart rate was more than 90 beats per minute, that conferred a 3-fold increase in your risk of death. This is in comparison to subjects who had resting heart rates of less than 50 beats per minute. So what this is telling us is that heart rates that are higher than 80 beats per minute, that ramps up your risk of death significantly. Okay, and when it gets to 90 and above, the increase is exponential. The study authors concluded that these results suggest that in healthy subjects, remember the subjects were healthy, in healthy subjects, elevated resting heart rate is not merely a marker of poor general fitness, but an independent risk factor for death. Okay, yeah, this study is quite telling. And this is the study here. It was published in the British Medical Journal, titled Elevated Resting Heart Rate, Physical Fitness and All-Cause Mortality a 16-year follow-up in the Copenhagen Mill study.
What we used to think was that, if your resting heart rate was high, it simply meant you had poor cardiorespiratory fitness. But what this research is telling us is that a high resting heart rate is more than just poor cardiorespiratory fitness. It actually has a predictive value in terms of your calculating your risk of death. It is an independent risk factor, and I want you to take it very seriously. Now, what about smokers? Yes, they did look at smokers as well. And as you saw in the initial presentation, if your heart rate went up by 10 beats per minute above 50, every 10 beats per minute increase meant your risk of death went up by 16%. If you were a smoker, for every increase of 10 beats per minute above 50 beats per minute, your risk of death went up by 20%. So an extra 4% increase if you were a smoker. That's one of the findings in this very piece of research. So as you can tell, guys, this is all about resting heart rate, okay? Your resting heart rate. It is very important because it is an independent risk factor in terms of calculating your risk of mortality in the next 2 decades. More specifically 16 years based on this very research. So how do you calculate your resting heart rate? Well, there are 2 approaches. You can do it manually and you can also do it digitally. So let's talk about the manual approach. It's very simple. It's about checking your pulse rate basically. So you take your middle finger and your index finger and then run it along the base of your thumb, and then you're going to hit this little depression here, a little pit there, and you press the middle finger and the index finger down, and you're going to feel a pulsation going like that, bang, bang, bang. That is your pulse. So all you need to do is have a watch in front of you, and then you count for 30 seconds. Whatever value you get at 30 seconds, multiply that by 2, and that will give you your resting heart rate per minute, okay? So count for 30 seconds and multiply by 2, that gives you your resting heart rate per minute. Now, the keyword there is resting. So before you do that, okay, before you check your resting heart rate, either manually or digitally, you must rest, okay, for at least 5 minutes, ideally 10 minutes. But rest for at least 5 minutes. Push it to 10 minutes. That way you get a reliable figure as to what your resting heart rate is, okay? The keyword there is resting. So that's the manual approach. What about the digital approach? Well, there are devices that you can use. Here is one. This is a pulse oximeter, okay? They're not very expensive. They're quite affordable. You can get this from Amazon. Or any other online shop, and they have a power button. You press that and then it comes on, and you just place it on your finger, and it's going to read what your pulse rate is, and it will also tell you what your oxygen saturation is, okay? So a pulse oximeter is something that helps. I got this one. I've had this now since 2020 during the COVID time. That's when I had it in the house. I think the battery is run out now. So that's one way of doing it. Another way you can do it is via wearables, okay? Because now technology is advancing, so now you have all the wearables. Here's another one. You can buy a digital watch, Apple's got one. And they'll tell you what your heart rate is. Here's one that I got just today actually, and because I was going to do this video, I said I would let you guys into it. So far it's not showing me what my heart rate is, okay? That's it there. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm wondering whether there's a fault with it or whether it takes about 24 hours. So I'm going to wait for the next 24 hours to see how accurate it is, okay? This pulse oximeter is very accurate. I can tell you that. Pulse oximeter is really accurate because it's the stuff we use in the hospital. But these other wearables, I don't know. This is the first time I'm getting one, so I will find out whether they're accurate or not. But it's another digital approach, okay? Obviously, it's telling me my time and everything. So, so far, it's telling me my oxygen saturation, which is 96%, it's saying there. So, I'll wait to see whether it's going to display my heart rate for me. It's also supposed to be telling me what my blood pressure is. So far, none of that has appeared. It's giving me other data like weather, and I can connect it to my music, all of that. But the stuff that I need, it's not really happening yet. So we'll wait and see. So a quick plug, my book, okay, titled "Fix Your High Blood Pressure in 90 Days or Less," is now available. Obviously, this book deals with management of high blood pressure through lifestyle modification. And if you got high blood pressure, it's going to help you. I can vouch for that. If you don't have high blood pressure, it will still help you, because if you do this stuff I talk about in here, you will prevent high blood pressure. So this book is for everyone. I'm going to leave links down below so you can get yourself a copy, okay? We all need it. So beautiful book. You're going to love it. Links down below. So those are the ways you can calculate your resting heart rate. You can do it manually. Run your finger, get your pulse there, count to 30 seconds, multiply by 2. That gives you your resting heart rate over a minute. Or you can get a pulse oximeter. Very accurate. These ones, I can vouch for them. They're very accurate because this is stuff that we use in the hospital. The wearables, well, the jury is out on those. So far, this one has failed me. Like I said, I'm going to give it another 24 hours to see whether it's going to pick up. Maybe I need to wear them for 24 hours. I don't know. It's the first time that I'm using a wearable, so we'll see. So in another video, I'll tell you about what you can do if your heart rate is high, the stuff you need to do to bring your resting heart rate down, okay? That will be the subject of another video. So hopefully you got some value from this very video. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, please like the video, and also please share this video with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues. If you got any questions, any comments regarding this video presentation, especially if you are somebody who's been using wearables, do let me know what your experience has been as far as wearables are concerned. Do let me know in the comment section below. I think that's about it. Until next time, well, this is Dr. Joe signing.